All right, Ted, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Dan. We have 72% humidity up here in Vermont,
All right,
which apparently is normal in New York City, but
Hurricane Henry didn't sweep you away.
not yet. I think it's going to miss us up in northern Vermont for the most part. So, which is fine.
See, cats love Zoom. Did you know that?
They do.
Yeah.
Ratings go through the ceiling.
Yeah. All right, so today we're talking about
Whoa,
these two records.
you came prepared.
Yeah, Peter Gabriel, So,
Yes.
Paul Simon's Graceland.
Two big albums from 1986.
Right. I think 86 and 87, I think.
Oh, yeah?
I think so.
I can pull it up here.
So I was thinking, like, what's the reason for these two?
Both are 86.
What's that?
Both are 86.
Oh, both are 86. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he won the Grammy in 87. That's why I get confused.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense. Yeah. Yeah. Graceland was released on August 25th. And so, when was So released? 19th of May, 1986.
Okay.
So
there's definitely a link between these two records, right? And like I was thinking about it a little bit because it's kind of a weird link, aside from the fact that they both came out in 1986, because one is by kind of like a prog rock who became alternative rock,
Yep.
pop eventually with this album. And this is a 60s folk singer who kind of meandered around, I guess you would call it like adult contemporary in the most of the 1970s.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Folk adult contemporary.
Right.
So they're not really in the same genre, really, if you really think about it. But for me, maybe for you too, I don't know, maybe they're always linked for me because I bought them around the same time. I played them both to death.
Yep.
I think these two guys are not too far apart in age. And
they're probably pretty close. Yeah.
Pretty close, right?
Yeah.
But I guess they're just linked for me like in a moment in time, like this mid 80s. And they're not really like quintessential 80s albums necessarily either. You know?
That's true. Yeah. I think they were departures for both musicians.
And they both definitely tapped into like African music.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, they both in different ways, I think, with different results too. I'm getting a phone call.
Oh.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
In the middle of our Zoom.
Yeah, I can edit that later.
Hey, I'm on the Zoom with Dan right now. And any chance you can get a ride? Oh, okay. Or I can like 30 minutes. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye-bye. All right, sorry.
That's okay.
So yes, they both have, they brought kind of, African music more into the mainstream than it had been probably. I think maybe Talking Heads Remain in Light kind of was another album from a few years earlier.
Right.
And what was the Brian Eno, David Byrne record, My Life?
Oh yeah.
Whatever it is. But Peter Gabriel's always struck me as kind of like like a combination of like art rock and African music. Whereas Paul Simon's was a little more complicated, I think, in a lot of ways. We could probably do a whole show on Graceland and
I know
all the controversy surrounding it.
Both these albums deserve their own like podcast, but there's something to me about them connected together that is kind of interesting,
Yep. Oh yeah.
I guess for Paul Simon, like, and I think this has been probably talked about to death, but his career was kind of, I'm not going to say it was going south really, right? But it was kind of leveling off a little bit. He hadn't had anything huge in a I don't know, a few years maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So post Simon and Garfunkel, there's that first Paul Simon album where he's wearing the winter jacket on the cover.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a great album.
Hmm.
And that has a couple of hits on it, right? That's got Me and Julio, and it's got Mother and Child Reunion.
Yeah, I mean, those are still songs that get played all the time.
And then he kind of flows
Yeah.
on there through the 70s, and he has a few more hits, right? Like, oh yeah, so Still Crazy After All These Years,
Hmm.
with 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover and all that
Right.
stuff, and then Hearts and Bones. And
Yep.
for me, those albums start to become a little too kind of like light FM, adult
He's kind of
contemporary.
cruising, you think, or
Maybe I think, yeah, or just not. I mean, some people will probably love those albums and will probably comment on this video that those are amazing albums and great, and they are. But I guess for me,
right?
I lose him a little bit there, just
Yeah.
personally.
Yep. Yep. I was. I mean, yeah, I agree with you on that. Um, and truth be told, I didn't know a lot about Peter Gabriel before. So, I mean, I knew he was in Genesis. I'm not a prog rock guy for the most part. Um, so I don't know a lot about that genre per se. And I knew a couple of his singles, but I think when So came out, he hit people like me. I know Peter Gabriel, but oh my God, he's everywhere now. And he's got these, kind of claymation videos, and he's all over MTV.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
guess so. He had like a few big hits too: "Shock the Monkey" and
Shock the Monkey,
"Games
yep.
Without Frontiers" and
Biko,
"Biko."
yeah,
But yeah, I think for both of them, these were kind of like, at least for their solo careers, these were both the big hits, the big hit albums. I think they're both
yeah,
top selling albums.
yeah. I think so. Yeah, I mean, for me, I listened to them when they came out. I personally, they were really important records for me in 1986. Um, a lot of people don't know this, but I worked at a bank for 9 months in 1986, and I hated it, but I needed to pay rent, and I needed to figure out life a little bit. The electric department kept sending me these letters, and I would, oh, that's nice. And I didn't open it until the red one came, and they said, we're going to turn off your electricity until you, pay us this money. So I thought, oh, wow, I guess I got to get a job. So I would work at the bank, and I would come home around 2, and I would put on those 2 albums back to back. So, and then Graceland. And so every day was kind of like my meditation, for
So
20-year-old me.
they're linked for you too.
They're linked, yeah. So it was a way to decompress, and I only lasted 9 months at the bank, and I became a house painter after that. So it was a career pivot. But they were important, and it was like okay, I just, spent 6 hours doing something I really don't want to do. I'm going to listen to this record, and then I'm going to listen to this record probably every day for like a couple of months. I listen to other things as well, but those are usually the first 2 records I put on. It was the
They're
era
yeah,
of vinyl.
they're kind of iconic records, right? I mean, these are records that I think define both of these guys and also define kind of a moment.
Hmm.
And you don't really need to like go deeply into why they're important. It's just everybody sort of just knows them. They're like iconically,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
the album covers are iconic, and they each had a mega hit. I think is also really interesting, like
Sledgehammer.
Sledgehammer and You Can Call Me Al.
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
also had like secondary hits like Red Rain
Oh,
and
big time.
Big Time.
Hmm.
Oh, and what am I talking about? In Your Eyes,
Oh,
right?
that was a huge one. Yeah, that was probably
So this probably has more hits actually.
yeah. Um,
This has You Can Call Me Al. Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes, I guess, was kind of, you know,
yep.
a lesser hit,
Um,
but
yeah, that's true. I think probably Peter Gabriel So had more radio hits.
yeah,
The Boy in the Bubble got some radio play too, though,
yeah, yeah.
as that's opens the album.
Probably not on mainstream radio as much, right?
Yeah, it was probably played on the college radio station I was listening to at the time.
So there is kind of like some symmetry to these two records, I feel.
Mhm.
I feel like Red Rain and The Boy in the Bubble have a similar theme, that they're both kind of the darker maybe songs on the album that are kind of like talking about
Yeah,
things going on in the world.
that's
I just
true.
um I heard today that I was doing a little like watching stuff about Peter Gabriel a little bit today, and Red Rain is like the imagery is supposed to be like blood.
Ah,
Rain as blood, literally.
yep.
He had a dream or something.
Oh wow.
But it was kind of reflective of things going on in the world that were troubling him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Go back to the when Reagan was president of the United States and Thatcher was in the UK.
right, right.
They were both very conservative. And I mean, the US was building up the Cold War arsenal, and
Yeah.
we had all those, yeah. I mean, as far as there was definitely conflicts around the world that were kind of unsettling. I mean, for us, it was Central America, right? Nicaragua and the Sandinistas, and the British had the Falkland Islands debacle.
Right.
Yeah, Red Rain, the musically, it definitely conveys that as well. That feeling
Yeah. It's heavy.
like what's going on, and plus you have Stuart Copeland on hi hats.
Yeah, I just heard about that. That's so cool. He just just for the hi hats.
Once you know it's him, that once you find out it's him, you're like, oh, of course it's one of those drummers that's a very distinct style. It's like when you hear Ringo, it's like it's Ringo, or
And you know that whole thing about Peter Gabriel didn't like hi hats.
Yeah, he doesn't like cymbals, right? I remember
He doesn't
reading
like
that in an
cymbals.
interview.
So
Yeah.
Daniel Lanois had to talk him into cymbals, right?
Yeah. Right.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
So Daniel Lanois produces this.
Yes.
Produced this. I don't know who produced Graceland. Honestly, do you know?
Did Paul Simon produce it himself?
Maybe he did. Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of information on the back of Graceland. At least the pressing that I have. There's like,
yeah.
he unpacks every single song and writes about it.
Really?
Which I've never seen on the back of an album.
On Graceland?
Mm-hmm. He
yeah.
He gives you full background on like every song, like what it's about, how it was recorded, where it was recorded, who are the musicians that played on every track. And that's just on the back of the album.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember reading that, yeah. I mean, and that album came with so many controversies that kind of, even at the time, I mean,
Was it at the time the controversies already started, or did it? I feel like they came later in my memory.
It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't as accessible as it is now, but I definitely remember some of them. I remember I remember reading about the Los Lobos kind of controversy, that he had asked them. I think Steve Berlin. There's an interview with Steve Berlin, the sax player from Los Lobos, saying that Paul Simon invited them into the studio and they were going to work together, and so they went in, and I guess they set up and started playing, and Paul Simon sat in the control booth, just I don't like that, no, I don't like that, no, I don't like that. And I mean, you can, people watching, you can find the interview with Steve Berlin, but apparently David Hidalgo, the guitar player and principal songwriter, started playing this riff, which became, what was it, the Myth of Fingerprints? Is that the name of the song?
Yeah.
And so Paul Simon was like, that's it. Yes, that's it. And so I guess they recorded it. They went away. They were expecting a songwriting credit on the record, and there wasn't one when the record came out. And according to Berlin, they got in touch with him, and Paul Simons was like, go ahead, sue me, see what happens,
Well, they are mentioned in the last paragraph on this record. Right?
They are not.
No, they are. It says Los Lobos is a well-known East LA band whose music I admire.
Yep.
They also use your accordion and saxophone and combine them with straight ahead rock and roll. The Los Lobos sessions were completed in June of '85 at Amigo Studios in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And this, I should say, this pressing, I mean, this record I have, this is this is from the original. This is when I bought it in 1986.
Yeah, yeah. I have mine somewhere too. Yeah. But if people want to look at, if people can Google Steve Berlin, Los Lobos, Paul Simon, and that, I'm sure that'll come up. And I even saw an interview with David Hidalgo probably about 10 years ago, and they asked him about Paul Simon, and he's kind of like, I mean, he's a man of few words anyway, but he just kind of like shook his head, you know.
Well,
So I think there's,
yeah.
you know, I'm sure they just, I mean, they, you know, they've done okay for themselves, but I think just getting that credit probably would have been nice.
Right.
Um,
Well, Paul is notoriously a little ornery, and some people are not that crazy about him.
no,
He does have that reputation.
right. Yeah.
But he also, I mean, so that controversy about the, cultural appropriation,
Mhm.
I could see that from both sides, right? Like I can definitely see the concern
Yeah.
viewpoint, but I also can see the perspective of, he was by bringing these musicians onto this album, he gave them great notoriety
Hmm.
and brought their sound to a much larger audience.
Right.
And the whole album is very joyful, and it's hard not to feel good listening to this album,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. Do you fall on one side of that issue,
Um,
that controversy?
yeah, I think I hear what you're saying. And it is, I mean, there's always, especially the older you get, the more gray areas you see in life, you know.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, there was, growing up in Burlington, Vermont, Bernie Sanders was mayor. So it was a very political town, you know, and there was a shanty town on the UVM Green, you know, during this period, you know, where they were trying to get UVM to divest from South Africa. Um, and I remember reading about this. I think it was one of the leaders of the African National Congress was talking about that very same thing about, you know, bringing, well, you know, people say Paul Simon's bringing this music, you know, all over the world, and he's exposing these musicians. And the guy was like, yeah, it's 30 people he's helping, you know, there's millions of people in South Africa, you know, who are still suffering. Um, but, you know, so that was one aspect of it. Um, but he did give, you know, Lady Smith Blackman Bazo, you know, they would play Burlington all the time. You know, they would come up here and play all the time.
After Graceland, you mean?
After Graceland, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was, you know, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a hard, yeah, I think we could, yeah.
It's a really tricky one, right? Like, I mean, doesn't Hugh Masekela play on this too?
Yeah, and he had, you know, so people like Hugh Masekela were, I think, remember were defending Paul Simon during this whole thing, you know. And there was, I don't know if you remember, there was that big press conference when Graceland was released, and there was protests outside, I think.
Hmm.
And I think Billy Bragg was there protesting.
Hmm.
And I think Billy Bragg was saying it was hard for him because he loved Paul Simon, but he hated, you know, he was part of this whole, like, you know, we have to make a solid front, you know.
Do you remember if Paul Simon was part of that boycott of not playing South Africa, that whole,
Sun City.
yeah, or did he break that line and play anyway? And that
I don't remember.
Controversy more. I can't remember either. I'd have to look that up, but
Yeah.
um,
But yeah, I think some of it was him recording in South Africa, right? It was part of the issue.
right, that's true.
But on other occasions, I think he brought South African musicians to New York to record. So, you know, where's that line, you know?
Yeah, right. And the other thing, I think, to be kind of like, this wasn't the first time that he was diving into other cultures for music influence,
Right.
right?
Yep.
I mean, his other albums definitely show that he's being influenced by,
Oh yeah.
and David Byrne does the same thing. David Byrne,
Yep.
I mean, pulls from all kinds of other musical
Oh yeah.
And so does Peter Gabriel.
Definitely, yeah.
Right? So
Yep.
I don't know. It's complicated, I guess, but
Yeah.
in
Did
the
you
end.
ever read?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that funny story. Did you another interview with Steve Van Zandt? Did you ever read that one?
No.
Where Steve Van Zandt talks about how there was a hit out on Paul Simon apparently.
Oh, right. No, right. I did hear about that.
And Steve Van Zandt stepped in and was like, I don't particularly care for the guy either, but taking him out is probably not a good idea.
At the end of the day, like Paul Simon is kind of a music nerd from Queens, right?
Right.
He's a very slight, small guy, loves
Yep.
rock and roll, eventually became really fond of other music from around the world, tried to
Right.
put it all together in a big soup.
Yeah.
But he's a kid from Queens, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
he's so unimposing.
Maybe that's his.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway.
No, I know.
One,
What's
two,
that?
three. I was just counting the number of songs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So has 8 songs. Another thing that like connects these two albums is like the number of guest stars, right? So Paul Simon
is
brings
filled
in
with them.
Lobos, Linda Ronstadt, all those South African musicians,
The Everly Brothers.
the Everly Brothers.
Yeah.
Gabriel brings in
Hugh Masekela.
right.
Yep.
And Kate Bush.
Who else? Oh, Randy Brecker's on it. Randy Brecker and John Faddis, who are jazz players.
Wait, which album?
Graceland.
Oh yeah.
Yusa Endure is on both of those, right? Isn't he on both records?
He's on Graceland?
I think so.
Oh,
Let me see. Let me check. I thought he was.
Oh my gosh, I just found another link between these two albums.
Yusa Endure. Oh, he plays percussion on track 5, it says.
That's Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes.
So maybe he doesn't even sing, he just plays percussion.
Huh.
You know who I love? What song I love on that is I Know What I Know.
Yeah, it's a great song.
With the Gaza sisters.
Yeah.
That song just like it stuck out almost immediately when it was, the vocals are just so cool on that.
That's so cool.
What they're getting away with,
Yeah. That's a great song. Okay,
so not getting away with, but yeah.
I think this for me, this goes into the category of it's a perfect album. There are no bad songs.
Uh-huh. Right.
Or not even okay. I shouldn't say bad. That's being
subjective,
right? So for me, there's no bad songs on Graceland. It's a perfect album. There's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing to skip.
That's true.
Very
yeah.
rare.
Although
Very
I have a friend. What's that?
No, it's very rare. Like I can probably name 10 albums off the top of my head where I don't feel the need to skip any song.
Mm-hmm.
So that's incredible. And then I was just thinking there's another thing that these albums have in common is they both feature one duet with a very well-known female singer.
True.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah. Now, yeah, that's true.
For Peter Gabriel on Don't Give Up, I just found out today he wanted it to be Dolly Parton.
He loved that too. Parton. Yeah, I remember that. That would have been. I think I might have liked that better actually. Maybe I'm in the minority, but
she didn't want to do it. I think she didn't know who he was, and she turned it down. But that's unique, right? For you don't. Well, no, I guess you do see that a lot now. Actually, there's a lot of team ups. Pop music now.
So we were talking about duets.
Oh yeah.
We have Paul Simon and Linda Ronstadt. And didn't Linda Ronstadt, she was one of the people that broke the boycott, right? And played South Africa.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
I think Cher's one of them, right?
I don't know that either.
It's okay.
I mean, I remember the
I'm
album,
going back. Yeah.
Sun City.
Ain't gonna play Sun City.
Ain't Gonna Play Sun City. That album actually had some other great cuts on it. It had,
Yeah,
remember?
I do.
Yeah.
For our next show.
So I also
And then-
found, I didn't know that Peter Gabriel did not name any of his albums until this album.
Right, that's true.
They were always just called Peter Gabriel.
Right, that's true.
So ultimately, end of the day, if you had to choose, which one do you like better?
Oh boy, these are hard questions, Dan.
If you could only listen to one ever again.
Yeah, I know. I think
And I have follow-up questions after this.
yeah. Boy, I don't know. I think for a long time it was Peter Gabriel, because I'm a big Daniel Lanois fan. I love his production and I love his musicianship. And he brings so much to the table. So much. I mean, he brings his Acadian background, Quebecois influence. And then he's, from being in New Orleans, he's got this whole New Orleans thing and his atmospheric stuff.
Yeah.
When he plays like pedal steel, it's just amazing, and
There's
then just
pedal
his
steel on, so
yeah. And I think I like the rhythm, they're both rhythmic records, which I'm always drawn towards. Man, making hard questions, Dan. I love the rootsiness of Paul Simon's record, though. It's definitely more of a rootsy record, with Ladysmith, Black Mambazo, and Los Lobos, and the Gaza Sisters, Gaza Sisters, and Hugh Masekela. There's that too. I think probably Peter Gabriel's album probably sounds more 80s in some ways, except for the drum sounds on Paul Simon's record. Definitely have some.
Yeah, we can talk
big
about
time
that
gated
later.
thing.
Yeah, it's very gated. Yeah, way too gated for me.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Peter Gabriel.
Okay.
And it's my final answer.
All right. Okay. Because it seemed like you were leaning the other way there for a little while.
I know. I was just looking at the track listing. Red Rain,
Right.
Sledgehammer, which I've heard Sledgehammer so many times. I'm not sure. I never,
Right.
But it's still a cool song. Definitely the horn sections on that are great. Don't Give Up. That Voice Again. And then In Your Eyes. I mean, we've all heard that song. Mercy Street. I love that song. Mercy Street.
That's a great song.
And then Big Time was just such a great funky song. And I think We Do What We're Told. That also had like a kind of a Red Rain kind of feel to it as well. Like we're just kind of going to the factory and we're doing our jobs and we're going to school and we're doing this,
Yeah.
You do this and everything will be okay, but it really won't, So, yeah, I don't think there's any song that's another album that doesn't have any bad songs on it for me. Yeah, and I forgot how much I like Mercy Street until I was just going through the track listing. That's a great song. And he's got great players on it as well. I mean, he's got Jerry Murata on drums and Manu Katché. Daniel Lanois played a lot on that record too.
The bass player is great too, Tony.
Tony Levin.
Yeah.
Oh, and P.P. Arnold sang backing vocals on that. An American soul singer who I think moved to England in the 60s. I think she started with Ike and Tina Turner, actually. She was one of the Ikettes.
Wow.
I think. if I'm not mistaken. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong.
So
And you?
I'm going to go the other way.
Nice.
Here's let me see if I can kind of explain why. I think for me, I do think it's a perfect album. I think every song is great. But as time goes by, I probably don't feel as passionate about songs like Big Time and We Do What We're Told. And even That Voice Again,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I can listen to Graceland all the way through over and over and over again. And there's not a song that comes up that I'm ready to say goodbye to.
Mm.
But so of the 8 songs on So, I could probably, not have to listen to very, very much three out of 8. And the ones that I love, like Red Rain, Sledgehammer, and In Your Eyes, I almost need a little break from at this point because they were so played.
Right, they've been used in movies, and yeah, sure.
So I'm gonna go with Graceland, as if I had to pick one and the other one had to go away, I probably would go with Graceland.
I have a follow-up question for you.
Okay.
What we've talked about before, separating the art from the artist,
Yeah.
with all this controversy with Paul Simon's record, when I listen to Graceland, I love the songs, but I also think of like kind of what a jerk he is sometimes, so I think that probably clouds my view a little bit, and I don't know him, maybe he's not a jerk, I don't, but the interviews I've read, and the things that
I mean, Art Garfunkel has sworn to never communicate with him again, I think. If I'm not mistaken.
And I may be a bit biased. I'm a huge Los Lobos fan. I think they're one of my favorite bands ever.
Yeah, me too. I love them too.
And I think they're probably I would rank them like at the top American bands, top bands in the world, and seeing them live is just like a great experience. So to hear their telling of what happened kind of probably clouds my judgment a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like when now that we've heard all this, like Woody Allen, when you hear Woody Allen's name, you're like, oh,
I don't think Paul Simon's ever done anything though that's
not as heinous, not as heinous as Woody Allen, but
right. He's just kind of like a curmudgeonly guy.
Right.
And then of course the controversy issue.
Yeah. So I think I always think of that when I think
of it. I hear you. It's hard not to.
And it's not, you're right. It's not as bad as, some other people that we see in the news now by any stretch of the imagination, but maybe, some people making, I don't know.
Peter Gabriel, on the other hand, seems like a very decent chap.
Right. Yep.
I don't think he's ever raised any red flags for anything he's ever done.
Right.
And he's aged into a really quintessential bald guy with a goatee, which
he looks good.
I just think it's so cool that he went from like this 80s guy with this great 80s hair to this kind of like quintessential.
Right. He had the suits and the shoulder pads and
kind of became what every guy sort of becomes when they get to be in their 60s, bald and a little goatee.
Tottering around his garden in England. Yeah.
Yeah. I should also point out that they both had great albums that came out right after this, which I think is
true.
Interesting. So Paul had the Rhythm of the Saints.
Rhythm of the Saints, which
is amazing.
Yeah, some people actually like a lot more than Graceland. A couple of friends of mine I was talking to about us doing this show, and they said, "Oh, actually, I like Rhythm of the Saints a lot better."
Yeah. And Peter Gabriel had, I think, Us was the next album, which is also great.
Yeah.
So they followed up. They both had like really great follow-ups to these big hits.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think, Peter Gabriel certainly has. I think when you talk about him as a good chap, you think of the work he's done promoting other musicians from different cultures. You know, what is it? His studio, Real World Studios in England,
Right.
where they've put out great records from people, you know, all over the globe. You know,
He does a
and
lot
did
of great humanitarian work.
yeah, exactly.
And
So
he has several songs that really are about social justice and equitable, you know, equity in the world and looking out for people.
yeah,
He's got that great song, "It's Your Day," Women's Day. Is that what's the name of that song? I forget the name of that song. Maybe it's just "It's Your Day." I don't know.
I think it's called. Hmm. Oh yeah, and well, of course, there's WOMAD too, which he also founded.
Oh yeah,
Which what is it? World of Music, Art, and Dance.
right.
And so those, I mean, those concerts, they have those WOMAD festivals all over the world now. And there was, you know, there's WOMAD in England, there's WOMAD in North Africa, and I know down under too in Australia, they've had WOMAD festivals down there as well,
Mhm.
where I think they try to promote like indigenous music.
Yeah,
So
I guess it's pretty unarguable that Peter Gabriel's a pretty decent guy. Probably more than a pretty decent guy. He's like
probably more than yeah, he's
really
walking the walk.
quality human being.
Yeah.
Does that take away from? Does the opposite take away from Paul Simon's music? I don't know.
Well, that's yeah. I guess that's the
That's
art,
personal, right?
separating the art and the artist, right? You know, was
Yeah.
Picasso. You know, Picasso wasn't a stand-up guy, right? But
Hemingway.
Hemingway, yeah.
I mean, the list goes on and on.
The list goes on and on. Right. I know. You could pick, yeah, you could pick a lot of people that we admire artistically. And maybe it's, you know, I always think, God, maybe it's better I don't know as much as I know about some of these people, you know.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Um, or maybe we should just accept them for being human and making a lot of mistakes and not being perfect people,
Right.
and try to
We're,
separate what they created from.
yeah.
I don't know. I think it depends on really the level of bad, the bad.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
if the bad is really bad and they're in prison or they've been arrested or they've been in legal issues because of whatever the bad thing was,
Right.
that sometimes I can't really move past.
Yeah.
But
That's
if
true. I mean, yeah. Yeah,
if
you're right. Because we all
yeah,
fall under the category of making mistakes. And
yeah, I mean,
oh,
John Lennon.
I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah, John Lennon admitted freely that he was abusive to women that he dated in his early years.
Yep.
Um, and he talks about it and he's open about it. And from what I understand, he changed greatly
Yeah.
as a person as he got older. Um, so do we hold that against him for those early days? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think everybody has to make that decision for themselves.
True. Yeah.
No right or wrong about that.
Right. Exactly.
I will say that okay, so now talking about live performers, I never was
Yep.
lucky enough to see Peter Gabriel, but I saw the Graceland tour. I saw the Graceland tour.
Uh-huh.
I went to 3 shows on that tour.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, man, seeing that album played live, seeing that tour
Yep.
was one of the great joys of my life.
Where did you see him?
I saw him at Jones Beach
Uh-huh.
on Long Island. I saw the concert in Central Park, the famous one.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him. I can't remember where the third venue was, but man, those shows were so joyful.
Mm.
I've never experienced communal joy like I did at those Paul Simon Graceland shows.
Nice.
And when he played and he brought all those musicians out, and that stage was filled with all those incredible musicians.
Yeah.
Ladysmith, Black Mambazo, all of them. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before or since.
Wow.
And there was one show, I think it was the one at Jones Beach. It was the end of the tour. It was the last night of the tour.
Mm-hmm.
And they played You Can Call Me Out to close the show.
Yep.
And he finished the song and after the crowd finished losing their minds, he said, "I can't believe this is the last night we're going to play that song." And they played it again. They just played the whole thing all over again.
They play the song again.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, when you're first
So
starting
cool.
out and they want you to play another song, you're like, we don't have any more songs.
Yeah.
Play it when you already played. Okay.
So that, you know, I know Peter Gabriel is a great performer too, and he does a lot of visual art stuff at his shows,
Yeah.
a lot of like, you know, cool visuals to, you know, that he incorporates into his performance.
Yeah, it's the opposite for me. I never saw Paul Simon, but I saw Peter Gabriel. So, and it was very visual and very rhythmic and lots of, you know, dance. You know, every once in a while some choreographed stuff too, like the guitar player was moving, you know, and playing, you know.
Right.
And I thought, oof, I don't know if I could do that, but more power to him. I think it was David Rhodes, the guy who's worked with him for years.
Right.
Was his guitar player, yeah.
So we'll give him a split on live performance.
Right.
They're both amazing.
Oh yeah.
And I shouldn't mean to be saying that we're putting these guys in competition or these albums in competition. It was more just kind of like, you know.
Right.
So what's your favorite song on each album?
Favorite song? You know, I think on Paul Simon, well, let me do I still have it up? I think on Paul Simon's, I Know What I Know, which, you know, probably, I don't know, it's just a very like kind of quirky, eccentric song. And it kind of stands out a little bit because those vocals, I think, are so like slight, you know, that style of singing. I can't remember what that musical genre is in South Africa, but it stuck out and it always makes me smile, that song.
Yeah, and it's got those great lyrics. That's like, there's such like New York City neurotic lyrics.
Right, but he's got these South African backing singers. Yeah.
That's a good choice.
I know it's not and I think on Peter Gabriel, I think it's Mercy Street. I think when the album first came out, I think it was probably big time, but like you said, I've heard that song so many times. I just love the guitar in that, you know, that rhythm guitar.
Mercy Street?
On Big Time.
Oh.
When it first, but Mercy Street, yeah. The
bass line on Mercy Street is amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
It is, yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. And it, you know, it kind of conveys a feeling in that song.
That is a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it also kind of stands out from the rest of the record in some ways.
Yeah.
But in a different way than I Know What I Know does, you know. So.
Right.
So what about you? Favorite tracks?
For Graceland, it is very hard not to go with You Can Call Me Out, just for the pure joy of that song.
Oh yeah.
And the really fun, you know, silly lyrics.
Yeah. Right. I was reading about that. This was probably years ago, and I may get the story wrong, but we'll be corrected. You Can Call Me Betty. Wasn't he at a party or something with Carrie Fisher, and they were talking to these people, and they kept getting their name, like people kept getting Paul Simon's name wrong. They thought his name was Al.
Never heard that story.
I don't know. I don't think I dreamt it. I think he got the inspiration from that, going to this dinner party or something, and this older couple kept calling like his wife or Carrie Fisher Betty or something, you know.
Yeah. It's a very unusual song to be such a huge hit in terms of what it's about, like what the lyrics are, but musically it is, you know, it screams hit. Like it's totally sing along and melodic and tons of fun.
What do you think of the bass breakdown of that song?
Oh yeah, that's always great.
It's backwards though, isn't it?
Did he run it backwards? Yeah,
because we used to, my first band, The Switch, we used to play that at practice.
Yeah,
probably, you know, and the bass part would come up, and Joe is a great bass player, and he would play it like, I was like, wow, how did you figure that out? And I think we put it on or something at practice, and the three of us were like, I think it sounds backwards, you know. So because it's got that kind of like, you know, sucking, you know, sound that a reverse effect has.
So all that being said, that is actually not the song I'm going to go with, though.
All right.
I'm going to go with Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes.
Good choice.
That is, I think that is my favorite song on this album.
That's it. Yeah, the vocals on that one are just, they're glorious.
Very hard choice because Graceland is also amazing, and so is Under African Skies.
Yep.
Your song, I Know What I Know. You know, it's all great. For So, I'm going to go with Sledgehammer. I know it is the hit, but man,
great song.
I always am in the mood for some Sledgehammer. That song just, I love it so much. It's just like, first of all, it's like an R&B song, basically, right?
It is. It's like it's got the great horn section. The tempo is very, you know, like R&B kind of 60s, you know.
And then like You Can Call Me Al, it's just got these really sort of fun, kind of playful lyrics.
Yep.
And then of course there's that video, and so I'm going to go with Sledgehammer. But my second choice would be Mercy Street.
Oh yeah. No, I think Sledgehammer is a great song. Yeah.
It's got that. I love the opening horns. Do you remember the remix? Like, it was like a 12-inch remix where the horns just own and they echo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did Daniel Lanois do that? Did he?
I don't know.
I wonder who did the remix on that.
It just went do 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 do, and it just
that,
and it just echoed.
Yeah, that was great, wasn't it?
Then it did it again.
Yep.
And then you have to just kind of like wait a little while. First of all, I have to say how much I used to love the 12-inch remixes of hits.
Oh yeah, I used to buy those too.
Oh, those were so great. It was just like this one big record of one song, and you know, the artists just always seem to go that extra mile to, or maybe, you know, the producer and the artist, whoever, whatever, just to give you something different out of something you already knew.
Yeah.
That would go on a little longer. And it was kind of like, I loved those. Those were so great.
Oh, I agree. I probably around the same time I got my first 4-track, you know, like a Tascam Porta Studio.
Yeah, that's what I had.
And all I had was like this, I had this crazy synthesizer that a friend of mine had lent me, and a guitar, and I didn't have a drum machine. So I took, do you remember Mick Jones's band, Big Audio Dynamite?
Yeah.
I had a 12-inch of that song, The Bottom Line, and it was like a drum remix on the other side, and it was just like the drum beat. And so I used that for like a bunch of my demos, you know. I looped that drum beat, you know.
That's awesome.
Because it was like endless, you know. It was like however much I wanted, 2-4 measures of this really cool drum sound. So yeah, I love the 12-inch single. Those are great.
Those were so great.
And the quality was good too, right? Because the grooves, you know, it was like one song. So you could kind of crank the bass a little bit more.
And sometimes they give you like a B-side kind of outtake or something from the album on the other side.
Yep.
I had the other one I had was the Thompson Twins. What's that song? Hold Me Now.
Oh yeah.
I had the 12-inch single of that.
You did.
Yeah. I was so into new wave. Did
you have the hairdo as well? The Thompson Twins hairdo?
No, I just had a ridiculous mullet. I don't know why that didn't go at all, but I loved, like, you know, The Alarm and Big Country and
yeah,
you know, all those.
Big Country with that Scottish. Yeah. I remember trying to figure that out, that Big Country song.
Right, he used a EBO on that to get that.
Yeah. Very cool. The drone. Yeah, the drone. New wave. That could be another show.
Yeah, that should be another show. Well, anyway, I guess we've unpacked these pretty good.
I know.
Both came with lyrics on the inside sleeve.
You missed the packaging, LP.
I do. I really miss that. Um, Tons of credits, on
Yep.
both albums. So yeah, great stuff. I love these albums. Two of my favorites of all time.
1986. How old were you in 1986?
I was 16. The Mets won the World Series in 86. You will remember, right?
That's right.
So that was a darn good year.
I was 20. I
Right.
had my first apartment.
Yeah, you're a little older than me. I always forget that.
Yeah. And playing music a lot. Yeah.
So wait, how many years ago is that? 1986.
Um,
Let's not bore people doing math on the podcast, but
it's a couple of 20
it's a
years
long
ago.
time ago.
Well, let's see. 1991 was 30 years ago. So 35 years ago?
5 years ago.
35 years ago. That's a long time. Someone has been born and now is a grown up. And
One other thing that I always find kind of interesting about Graceland is like Paul Simon at that point in time had already had a significant career.
right.
But he's still super young making
Yeah.
Graceland.
Oh yeah. He looks young on the back of the record.
Oh my gosh, he looks like a baby.
Is he wearing a wig? You think that's a wig?
I don't think so. I wonder how old he was when he made this album. Maybe 40.
Yeah, 86. He was probably born in,
I'm going to guess he was around 40.
yeah, he was probably born late 40s, right? Mid late 40s.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think he's pushing 80 now, so
Okay.
maybe he's around 77 now. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, so he's still super young when he makes this, and this is kind of like a comeback album, marking the beginning of sort of like a third stage in his career.
Right. And he's still not that
Still
old.
so young.
Well, it's like when Tina Turner did that big comeback, right? And she was 40. And at the time, I mean, we were, because rock and roll was still young. It's like, wow, she's so, she was around a long time ago.
So I'm now 10 years older than Paul Simon was in his third comeback.
Which comeback are we in?
No, I shouldn't say third comeback. I should say third stage, sort of.
Don't call it a comeback, right?
Yeah, no, it really wasn't. It was just kind of like,
What's that line?
I don't know. Maybe it was a comeback. Who knows? I think the album that came out before that did sell pretty bad, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that somewhere.
Is that a Public Enemy line? Don't call it a comeback. Maybe. I don't know. So I was also looking up what else came out in 86.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Big records. So I did a quick scan. The Smiths had The Queen Is Dead.
Oh.
Run DMC's Raising Hell came out.
Oh, great album.
That's a great one. Yeah. REM had Life's Rich Pageant.
Great album.
Let's see. Van Halen had 5150.
Pretty big album for them.
Yeah. Genesis had Invisible Touch, which that had a lot of like radio singles on it, right? Didn't it?
Definitely. Yeah.
Licensed to Ill by the Beastie Boys.
Wow, what a year.
1986. King of America by Elvis Costello.
Holy smoke.
And he also did Blood and Chocolate that year.
What?
Yeah. Elvis had 2 records in 86.
The Police must have had something, right?
I think they were finished by then. I think Synchronicity was the last one.
Right.
83.
Synchronicity, yeah.
Yeah. Skylarking by XTC, 86.
Wow.
This is a huge record. Control, Janet Jackson.
Yeah, great album. Oh my God, I love that album.
Yeah, that's so good. New Order's Brotherhood. Madonna had True Blue. Who else? Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know much about Bon Jovi.
Not a Bon Jovi guy.
No, me neither. Steve Winwood had Back in the High Life, which
that was a huge album.
That was a big album too.
God, what a year that was. Holy.
I know Bruce Springsteen did the live record 75 to 85. Billy Bragg talking with the tax man about poetry. The Bangles, Different Light. Rapture by Anita Baker, which was one of my guilty pleasures when I was 20, because all my friends were punks. They were like, I couldn't tell them that I liked Anita Baker. This is another record another record, Guitar Town, Steve Earle.
Wow.
Which was a big game changer.
See, there's so many genres in there, huh?
I know. True Story,
Like,
Talking Heads.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
I was just thinking, like, not to be judgmental or anything about today's music, but it does seem like there's really sort of just one genre now.
Yeah.
Right. It's just sort of like that, yeah, dance, hip hoppy. Like, you know what I mean? People will probably argue that with me, I suppose, but it does seem like it's okay. Maybe not one genre, but it's a little closer to one.
Right. I can see that.
Do you feel like I'm way off in that statement?
No. I feel like, because Winnie and I talk about this when we hear a new song, it sounds like they're trying to, there's not only just kind of, they've consolidated all these things. It's like, there's a kind of like larger than life, like chorus section where it's like, bigger than big. And then it, it goes back into this other section, and I don't know what I'm talking about, but I I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it seems like they're combining all these different things into one song to try to hit all these different things,
Yeah. It just seems like in that list you just read, there was just really different.
Right. There's R&B, there's rap, there's rock, like hard rock, there's
indie rock.
Whiplash Smile by Billy Idol came out in 86.
Oh yeah, so there's new wave.
Yeah. Eurythmics, Revenge was a big record. Yeah.
The two albums that we just talked about.
The two albums, yeah.
It's really.
And I'm sure there's others, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. That was a good year, actually.
That was a great year. I wonder what was on TV that year and what was at the movies that year. We can't cover everything, but
no, we can't. But that's yeah. I know, it's interesting. What was the #1 movie in 1986?
Must have been tough to pick the album of the year in 87 for the Grammy for the year of 1986.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. There was a lot of good choices.
I believe it was Graceland, but I'd have to double check that for album of the year.
Oh yeah. It's interesting because REM was kind of moving up. They weren't what we know of them as now. They were still kind of an indie band. But Talking Heads that was like their last record though, right?
No, they made one more called Naked.
Oh, Naked, that's right. Yeah.
But no, they had crested already.
Right.
They were coming down.
I don't think I bought Naked.
Naked had that great song, Nothing But Flowers.
Oh yeah, that is a good song.
And then it also had a really great song that was on a soundtrack for the film, what that Wim Wenders film, Until the End of the World.
Oh, they did, yeah. That's
Sax
right.
and Violins. Remember that song, Sax and
Violins, yeah.
That was a great song.
I have that soundtrack over here someplace.
That whole soundtrack is great.
Right. Yeah, there was the German band Can was on there.
Yeah, there's a great Leonard Cohen song on there.
Leonard Cohen, Daniel Lanois on that.
Daniel Lanois on that.
T-Bone Burnett.
Yeah, U2.
U2, Until the End of the World, right?
Yep. And also that other song that was on Zooropa.
Oh yeah. I can't find my record.
Red light, 7-Eleven. You stop in for a pack of cigarettes. Remember that song? Don't smoke.
Oh yeah.
Want to? Hey
right.
Now, check your chain.
That's remember. Right.
Yeah.
Wow, good memory.
That's a great soundtrack.
It is. Yeah, I saw him filming that movie. I was in San Francisco when he was filming it, and my friend said, "Oh, they're filming. Wim Wenders is filming a movie around the corner. You want to go see?"
Huh.
So we could see him like, like a block away or whatever. But yeah, that is a great soundtrack. Oh, you want to know the top 5 films of 1986?
Sure. Wait, let me see
Grossing.
if I can guess.
All right, you guess.
I think that's the Top Gun year. Didn't Top Gun come out?
Exactly right. Top
Okay.
Gun,
Um,
number one.
I think Rocky Four, maybe, or was that in '85? I'm not sure.
I don't see it on my list.
Okay.
Uh,
Predator?
Predator, no.
No.
Crocodile Dundee was number 2.
Okay.
And number 3 was Platoon.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Number 4 was The Karate Kid Part 2.
Okay.
And number 5 was Star Trek 4, The Voyage
Well,
Home.
The Voyage Home, right?
Yeah, those are the top 5 films of 86.
Okay. Those are
Yeah,
Get movies.
I know. Yeah. So
Well,
what are we going to talk about next?
I guess we'll have to think of our next topic. I think we
Yeah.
should also, if anyone has made it through this podcast, we should plug our upcoming shows.
Oh yes, we have some shows coming up this week.
Yeah.
On definitely on Thursday,
Which is what, the
6th.
26th?
We'll be at world famous Charlie O's.
That's August 26th for those of you
Yes.
listening at home.
Yeah.
Charlie O's in Montpelier, Vermont, 7:00.
Yeah. Maybe outside if it's not hot.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be on the radio, which you will hear probably the week after.
Yeah.
And then
AM.
Friday, we're going out to our friends. Has a really cool coffee house in Westford, Vermont. His name is Michael Keurig, but everyone calls him Harpo. And it's a really nice, kind of fun, all ages celebration of music, and people bring food and hang out on the green in Westford if it's nice, which it's looking like it's gonna be really nice Friday. So bring a guitar or a violin or whatever, something to drink.
Yeah.
And we'll be there.
All right.
Cool.
I guess that concludes our second podcast.
I know. And we made it. Technical glitches and a phone call.
Yeah.
That's what people like us, right?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to end this recording.
Okay.